Well, I think you might hopefully see me in a few different locations.
Locations alone are such a huge undertaking for this project. We're coming up on our last few days here in Vancouver, and then we go to London, and we shoot there for 2 weeks, and then China. We'll be in Shanghai, then we go to South Africa for the better part of a month.
I scouted South Africa. There's a good industry there. I was amazed by the quality of the actors, especially, you know, the bit parts.
Would you believe it, actually, this is all dressed, this set, as you can see now, it looks really authentic, but and the place is very run down, but it's an amazing environment to be acting in.
We have a big environment to build and decorate in South Africa. There we have Rebel Compound, we have the Dulu Health Clinic. Not per se difficult sets, but just to kind of create a kind of, again, this sort of amplified environment.
It's funny, this film, because I've always said there's a fine line between Hector and the Search for Happiness and Around the World with Simon Pegg. And we have to improvise, we have to go with what happens. You know, you can't go to these places with too rigid an idea. We have to be flexible, otherwise there's no point in going to these places.
Places can seem foreign, and you scratch the surface and you find this great kind of shared feeling, and you know, people who you think might be wildly different to you aren't.
Our composer is a Canadian musician named Dan Mangan.
When I was offered to work on this film, and even the title, my first thought was, have you listened to any of my music? Because it's pretty melancholy. It's almost less about whether it has a upbeat tempo or something like that, and more just about what is it conveying? What is the intention behind the music? I've been working really closely with Peter, the director, to try and set the tone, and it's funnily enough, we talk a lot about things that aren't music. You know, we're talking a lot about just life and philosophy and things. I think it's a charming, it's a funny, and it's a touching movie, but it's kind of a philosophical movie, obviously, too, and it's starting to come together quite nicely.
I could not be happier making a film like this.
We were looking for a director because we realized this really needed a filmmaker's vision.
He had done such a wonderful job of capturing what I loved about the book and the screenplay.
He's knows what he's doing, he's always well prepared.
Peter's just been such a great mentor to me. It's my first feature film, and I just can't describe how lucky I feel.
We were basically in go mode, you know, from the moment that I met Peter.
It's a very different experience for me. I feel closer to it, and my picture of the story, and my picture of the scene, and my picture of the details is just more vivid.
I think the film is kind of about a sort of freedom, a sort of inner freedom that brings a happiness, a kind of freedom to be really who you are, whatever the cost.
It's only when we are inspired, in flow, dancing, teaching, giving, working, that we experience happiness as a byproduct.
Happiness, to me, means nothing to do with being happy and laughing and screaming all the time. But it means being totally immersed in something. That is the closest thing to what is called happiness that I know.
And I think the film is about Hector realizing that happiness was where he started from, not where he ended up. You know, that's the beauty of this journey.
全球畅销小说改编，年度必看电影。
We should concern ourselves not so much with the pursuit of happiness, with the happiness.
6月26，寻找快乐的15种方法。